Well, welcome this evening to New Tracks Meetup. So nice to see you again this evening. Thank you so much for coming. Hope you'll join us again as soon as possible and come back often. Tell your friends about us, the more the merrier. If you're new to our show, I hope you'll go to our website, newtracksmodeling.com, newtracksmodeling.com, and register so that we can send you an email for all of our future shows and you won't miss any of them. Our train show is January the 16th and 17th of this year, the new year, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If you are a new vendor that hasn't been to one of our train shows before or participated in them, I hope you'll let me know, because we're going to start a policy where the same vendors are not going to be able to be in the train shows just time after time. We're going to change out and have a totally different group of vendors for each one of our shows. So anybody that you have seen, you'll see new people. Dylan, if you could run the promotion for our train show, please. My name is Jim Kello, and on behalf of our New Tracks team and our great sponsors, the Great Scale Model Train Show and MRH Media LLC, I want to invite you to attend the third virtual New Tracks Train Show on January the 16th and 17th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's free to attend, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be full of some of the most creative model manufacturers and publications in our hobby. You will be able to view the show live on Zoom or join the live Zoom streaming on the New Tracks YouTube channel. Please reserve January 16th and 17th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on your calendar now, and register at our newtracksmodeling.com. That's newtracksmodeling.com, so that you'll be notified by email and you will not miss the show. We really look forward to seeing you all there. And now I'd like to introduce one of the vendors.
Hello, I'm Bernard Helen from miniprints.ca. Do you miss train shows? I know I do. If you're like me and you're missing the train shows, please join me and other vendors at the New Tracks Virtual Train Show, January 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Please see newtracksmodeling.com for a list of vendors and login information. Looking forward to seeing you there.
And we really do hope that you'll join us. It's going to be a great show, and we look forward to having you there very much. We're going to have the next My Build on January the 27th. And Chris, of course, is the moderator for our My Builds. Chris and I talked a little bit after the last show the other night, and we're thinking about changing the title of this series to maybe include something about my construction rather than my build, because we're really interested in modelers coming and telling us what they're building before they complete it, and showing us in-process modeling of how they're building the models and what stage of construction they're in their models. And if they're having problems, ask for ideas to solve whatever problem they're having. So we're going to try to change it just a little bit, and we hope that we'll get your attention and that you'll want to participate in that kind of a segment. And that'll be January the 27th. And if you'll notify Chris at his email address, and Dylan, if we could put that up on the share, then he'll make sure that you have time allocated and that we can show what you're doing and how you're doing it. And with that said, I'd like to introduce Paul Thompson for one of his quick tips. Paul, please.
Great. Thank you, Jim, and good evening, everyone. A bit of a technical glitch today, so I'm going to be trying to share screen and do some of this myself. I'd like to thank Ted Becker. He sent me 3 quick tips today that I'd like to show everyone. Now, is this coming up, Dylan?
Not just yet. I'm not seeing it. Did you did it give you the share menu?
Yep. Okay, let me see the share menu here and I'll, it's the green thing in the middle, right?
Yep, green button, and then it should pop up a menu. It might pop up on another screen.
Is that
Yep,
it?
yep, there we go. It's something's coming up.
Okay.
Yep, we got it.
This is a quick tip sent to me by Ted Becker, and it continues on with some of the coupler stuff that I was working on. As you can see, he's used a small mirror to highlight where you're looking at your coupler. And this negates or makes it easy, much easier. You don't have to get down on your hands and knees to go eye level with this thing. You can use the mirror adjusted, and it's a compact mirror, I believe. You can buy them at a 5 and dime. And the other tip that's included in this one is to put a piece of white paper behind so you can actually see what's going on. Now, I think I've got a few more tips on couplers, but I think I'm going to leave it at that one for tonight because I'm having a bit of a technical difficulty getting some of this stuff up. So that'll be a real quick tip for tonight. Thank you, guys.
Well, Paul, thank you. And I'm really pleased that your quick tips are getting as much attention as they are, because we're having quite a few people go on the YouTube channel and view your tips. So your idea for this segment is really taking off. And I really do appreciate you taking the time and going to the trouble of doing this for us. Thank you so very much. Also, Paul mentioned Ted Becker. Starting on the 9th of January, Ted is joining our little happy family. And once a month, he's going to be presenting a segment on tools. And I think that's really going to be interesting. If you have seen the YouTube that Ted has published, some of the comments that he's making and some of the tools that he's using and some of the locations that he goes to acquire his tools are really fascinating to me, and things that I'd never even thought of before. He's got one tool that makes all the sense in the world to me. Comes from a different hobby than model railroading, where he found it. And I'm sure a lot of us are going to want to get one. So with Ted's knowledge, I think he's going to really be an asset to our programs and tell us an awful lot about tools. Well, next I'd like to introduce Clark Cooney. And Clark is going to do his 15-minute segment on modeling with Clark. Well, Clark, welcome.
Jim Clark is not here yet. I don't know what's going on. I haven't been able to get a hold of him.
Well, Clark may be snowed in or something. I don't know what happened to Clark. So let me go to Rick Steele, who is our featured modeler.
One moment, Jim. I have an announcement. Going to share something for everybody. If I can find it again. Okay, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. I have too many windows open, guys. Well, this is the New Tracks Modeling Facebook page. And we have it. And we have a couple of others. And so it's not going to let me show you. I'll have to show you one at a time. But anyway, we got a Facebook page up. Everybody give Joey a round of applause. Joey is one of our team members and gave us a setup on a Facebook page and on an Instagram page. The links are into the chat. And that's my announcement.
I recommend everybody going out and following and liking the new page. And we're going to be posting a lot of our content on there. As well.
Joey, I can't hear you.
Yeah,
Joey,
you're kind of low, Joey.
I'm low. That's not good. Let me fix that on the. Is it the volume of video? Let's see.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. I have to remember this. I'm not used to using Zoom too much. right, I'm back. And so I was saying, is I recommend everybody going out and supporting the new Facebook page. Like it and share with all your friends and family. We'll be posting a lot of our content on there.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you doing that for us so much, Joey. That's great news. TC, do you have anything else?
No, I just wanted to let everybody know we had a Facebook and a Instagram page now, and maybe Twitter someday if we can get that worked out.
Well, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. All right, so let me go to Rick Steele now, because Rick is the owner of Labelle Woodworking Models and really a nice guy. I enjoy always talking with him, and he's agreed to be our featured modeler tonight and talk to us about his modeling and his company. So Rick, thanks so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it. And I'll turn it over to you, sir.
He was just grabbing some stuff from the other room. So here he is.
Oh boy.
Right into the hot seat, Rick.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Doesn't bother me in the least. Isn't the first time I've been in the hot seat. Well, since this is my first time on here, and I'm really not all that familiar with what you guys are doing week after week. Jim said, "Oh, get on and show us like you did on the virtual trade show." Well, what I did there was showed people that building your own equipment doesn't have to be shaking a box and watching the plastic come out. The big thing with that has always fascinated me about the hobby is actually getting my fingers glued together and building something. I've pulled a few. Yeah, thanks, Jim. I've pulled a few O scale kits because they show off a lot better than the HO scale ones. If you want to see some HO scale, just ask me, I'll get them. Now a little bit about my background. I've been modeling since I was about 12 years old, and that's a half a century long past, and then some. I started, like I say, modeling about 12 with actually Labelle kits, and then kind of got fascinated by the real stuff. Worked for a while at the Colorado Railroad Museum. I volunteered there. Then worked for the Colorado Central Narrow Gauge up in Central City, Colorado, on the Georgetown Loop. When it started, went from the Georgetown Loop to the UP, and I was with the UP for 33 years. And in the meantime, also found time to work for the Colorado and Eastern, which was a designated operator for the Rock Island lines between Lyman, Colorado and Goodland, Kansas. And I worked for, Great Western and a couple other short lines. What happens, it happened in the 1980s when the recession hit. A lot of railroaders were what we call cut off. Now, railroaders have a whole different speak than most. Being cut off is in if you were in another industry, they'd say they laid me off, but that's not what you do on the railroad. If you're laid off on the railroad, that means you're taking a day off. So while I was cut off on the UP, I worked for a lot of short lines because I already had a background in railroading, and that kept me going. And when it came time for me to retire at 60, I called the Railroad Retirement Board and I asked them, I said, if I stayed till I was 65, how much more retirement would that give me? And the Railroad Retirement Board said, well, Mr. Steele, tick, 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 it would give you 3%. I said, I promise I won't let the door hit me in the butt on the way out. So I got out of there just as soon as I could. But in the meantime, when I was I think it was 11 years from retirement, so that would put about, 49. I got a call from a good friend of mine, Ken Martin, out of California, because I know there are a lot of Ken Martins in this hobby. And he said, boy, excuse me, peanut went down the wrong pipe. And he said, too bad Labelle's going out of business. I said, what? He said, yeah, Labelle's going out of business. So for sale. So I thought to myself, I'm going to retire in not too many years. And I know I'm going to need something to do because my wife is 14 years younger than I am, and she's not going to want me hanging around the house while she's working. So I found out what Labelle cost. I bought it. I moved it from Pendleton, Indiana, where it was located, to Cheyenne, which is where I live. And then and started producing kits. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And people ask me when I retire, and I just tell excuse me, I am retired. And this is my hobby. And people ask me to see, they say, what's your layout like? I said, go downstairs and look at yours. Because I don't have time to work on one for myself. I'm working on everybody else's. But the nicest thing about Labelle is that I get to model in O scale. I get to model in ON3. I get to model in HO. I get to model in HON3. And when the mood hits, I build a building. So it's, and anymore, I see that they're, looking at the big view here, our gallery view, I see that most people have hair that's the same shade as mine, or except for maybe Dylan there. We haven't been on him hard enough to make his turn gray, but Jim, I'm counting on you to do that.
We're trying.
You're trying?
We're trying.
Good job. And my hope is that we can get younger people interested in our hobby. That means you, Joey. So the hobby doesn't die when we do. They're just well, as I was telling Jim, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Harry Brunk and up Clear Creek on the narrow gauge from damn it, the narrow gauge is Short Line Gazette. Well, Harry is now he's in a assisted living facility, thank goodness, here in Cheyenne. But he called me, I think it was about 10 years ago, and said, Rick, I said, Harry, he said, what would you think if I gave you my layout? I said, Harry, I think you were out of your damn mind. Because he'd been working on it for 30 years, and he wrote 2 books, and it's very well known. He said, well, he says, if you don't take it, it's going to the dump. Okay, I'll take it. Now, he built this thing in a single wide house trailer, And the trailer was built in 1959, had no structure left to it. But I thought, no, I got it. What am I going to do with it? So I committed to find a place for it. And we found it at the Depot Museum here in Cheyenne. We moved it. We have some volunteers who go up there and work on it regularly. And really, if I want a model, that's where I go. The layout is on display up there, and Harry himself, he'll come up when the time is right. You know, before this COVID thing hit, he'd try and come up about once a week, and that would usually be on Wednesday. But since this COVID thing hit, and most people who are in assisted living facilities are on lockdown, that's where he is. So now you kind of have the background of what's going on with him. And as far as narrow gauge goes, I would say that he was probably, with his 30 years of articles in the Shortline Gazette, probably one of the most influential people getting people interested in HO and ON3. But then again, here we go. We brought in a couple of kits because people just are so afraid. And I find this from a lot of people who send me messages. It's, oh, I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to do that. I don't know if I should cut here or cut there. Gentlemen, it's wood. That's it. It's wood. If you break it, you can glue it. And that's the way you put it together. You take wood and you take more wood and you put it together. It's easy. And this is something that I can't convince people of, no matter how hard I try. Here's a roof. Here's a floor. You can tell the difference. See? Roof has a peak. Floor doesn't. Take an end block, glue it, take two end blocks. You glue them in place. Now, since this kit's for sale, I'm not going to glue it. But you glue the end blocks in place. Just like that. Then you take your siding and you glue it in place, like so, and you cover the car with it. And by the time you're done and you paint it, you've got a nice looking boxcar. Of course, we do supply the decals, so I don't expect you to get out your miniature brush and put the lettering on it. But like I say, it's wood. If you mess up, it's not a problem. I mean, if you mess up royally, and I have some customers who have, write me. This is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. I'll send you more wood to screw up. So it's and although the kits take the same basic form that they have since they were first introduced in well, the first kit that I know of was introduced in 1959 for Labelle. That was the HO1, that was the coach. I will take and upgrade the castings instead of, you know, in some kits, especially freight cars, they have all these wooden bolsters, which is nothing but a block of wood. Well, I've been slowly replacing those with cast pieces. very much like the old Silver Streak had, which is a line that I recently got. So like I say, my modeling comes when I can sit down, when I have enough time to sit down and create something that you as a modeler will want to run on your layout. And that's where my satisfaction comes from. Because I go to other people's layouts and I say, hey, well, I recognize that, I recognize that, and I recognize that. And they go, how do you recognize that? Well, I made them. No, I made them. You're right, you did. But it is a little different perspective, I realize, because most people just, you buy a kit, it's yours. I'm very happy that you do, and thanks for dinner, or lunch or whatever. But it's, for me, the best thing for me as a manufacturer is seeing it on your layout. Now this particular kit is one of my favorites. It's also one of the most difficult kits we make because it takes two different roofs with a cupola in between, and it's our CB&Q. It's a drover's caboose based on a CB&Q prototype. As far as O-scale cabooses, I'm working on some. I do have two in HO scale, but the big problem with cabooses is that each railroad kind of had their own idea, and the UP cabooses did not look like the B&O cabooses, which did not look like the Southern Railway cabooses, which had nothing to do with the SP cabooses. And the Milwaukee Road, forget it. So it's, the cabooses are something I've got to just kind of, when I decide to produce a caboose kit, it's because I like the caboose, because I can't please everybody with one of those. I can change the cupola design. I got the facilities to do that. But to take let's say a Milwaukee Road caboose, cupola caboose, an old Milwaukee cupola, and let's say change it to a center cupola Southern caboose, it's not going to work very easily. But I do like to have feedback from people as to what you would like to see. And the nice thing about kits like this is that once they're done, I can do them in small quantities. Because, like I say, they're wood. I just got on the saw, and I can make 100 kits, and that's it. Or I could make 1,000. I mean, if you guys were here, if this camera was mobile, I could show you boxes containing more cars than Pullman ever built. And I have boxes on boxes on boxes of these that were built, that were produced over the years, sides mainly, by any of the different incarnations of Labelle. Recently, within the past 2 years, I was approached by the widow of the former owner of, or of the widow of the owner of Ye Olde Huff and Puff, which Gene Metzger, and Gene also had Silver Streak, as well as oh man, there are some old names. I mean, names I never. There's mainline models. There was LM models, there's AC models, and these all kind of just fell into my lap. So now I'm trying to work with them saying, okay, how many 40-foot box cars in HO scale do I want? And 40 foot is 40 foot. So with these things, the 40-foot box is already back on the market, but I want to I want to stay on a standardized design, because I don't see any reason for people to have a 40-foot boxcar and a 40-foot boxcar, which are essentially the same, except for little details that I can throw into the kit. And if you want the details in the kit, ask me. I can do it. If they're, I have a list of parts on the website, and if you want to change your boxcar so it's only yours, great. I was looking in the Railroad Model Craftsman for this month, and the White River publications are really the only one that I've settled on advertising in regularly, which is and that's Craftsman and the Gazette and some of the others, because I found that Model Railroader has, and they're great for people who are starting out, but I'm sorry, I don't need I don't need to know how to build a plastic structure, put it on my 4x8 layout, and put it right next to my snap track on the cork road bed. I mean, that for me is just a bit too amateur or beginner. Let's put it that way, not amateur. So like I say, I feel my kits reach a better and and more receptive audience through the White River publications. Sorry if you guys work for trains, but it is what it is. So, I as far as modeling goes, what's on my workbench now? To be quite honest with you, I'm working on a kit that I don't have the floor plan here, that will never see production. It's a one of for the Depot Museum, and it's in the Golden Roundhouse. And the reason it'll never see production is because, oh man, it'd be a nightmare to mass produce. And I'll be quite honest with you guys, I don't have the time. So as far as other things that I model with, I mean, if you look behind me, don't look at those green boxes, because they have nothing. The ones that where my finger's pointing to, those are just toner boxes, and they have nothing to do with modeling. The green box right there, that's Bowser, if you remember it. And you'll see there's a West Side, and geez, I didn't know I was that good looking at this stuff backwards. Destroy my life though. So basically, as far as modeling goes, I get my inspiration from the modelers who contact me. The only car that I've done that I absolutely hated and will never do again. Sorry, guys. I will not do the Hello Dolly car from the movie. It was based on a Solitaire car. It was a great car for its time, but doing it in HO or even O scale, if I were to keep track of the time and the amount of material that it takes, people wouldn't really be able to afford it. my main, I guess the main thing that keeps flashing at me is this is a hobby. Yes, we put a lot of money into it, and me probably more than most, because I've got there's at least 5 different model companies that I've ended up with, intentionally or unintentionally. I ended up with Sugar Pine Models, which is they specialize in buildings. I didn't even know it until I got it home. So, like I say, the investment is, for me, and my joy in modeling is taking a big chunk of basswood, and believe me, I know what a big chunk of basswood looks like. Cutting it, shaping it, and putting it in a kit so you guys can put it together. I also have a number of I do not I do not use investment castings because for me they just take too long and they're too expensive. But I do use spin casting in soft metal. Well, what most people would call pot metal, but when you buy it, you know it's anything but junk because it's pretty pricey, especially the lead-free stuff that they have now. And as far as anything else goes, I'm open to anybody who's got any questions, because you guys are just sitting there, and I see Joey nodding. He and I see Russ up there, and Bob. Are you any relation to Bill? No. Okay.
No.
Bill Farquhar was the guy I worked with on the railroad. Okay.
Okay.
And he was in he's in the California area.
Must be a nice guy though.
Oh yes, he's a great guy.
Well,
And
listen,
Dave, you look like you've got what's that? ON3 behind you there?
No, it's HO.
It's HO.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was looking at Dave Silver Nail up there.
Yep. He's an Owen 30 guy. He's one of those people like he's one of
30.
those guys like me that loves just being
Oddball scales.
We're weird. What
Man.
can I
Yeah,
say?
but what you're looking at is 2.5 inch to the foot, 7.5 inch gauge.
Oh, great.
That's right on.
Great. Do you enjoy it?
Oh, I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Well, there you go. That's what it's all about.
We're out there running it yesterday, in fact.
Uh-huh. Oh. Where do you live that it's so nice?
Sacramento, California.
Ah, okay. Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah, we run on New Year's Day and then shut down for a couple months for track maintenance.
Okay. That sounds good. Sounds good. So
you run in the park out there, Dave?
Yes.
We used to live out in Sacramento. We used to take our son down while you were running.
Yeah, that track now is 6,300 foot long.
Jeez. Unbelievable. It was a lot of fun back then. I remember that.
Well, I've been I've been in and out of that place for 40 years, but I've only been only owned this now for just a little over a year.
Yeah.
I was just, Dave, I was just kind of wondering your scale because I was looking at this and thinking, well, it look like it could be. Oh, it's cut down. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
It's a Jackson Sharp, and it's only got 9 windows instead of 12.
Well, yeah, and that's an interesting seat on the back of that Goose.
It's a boat seat.
Yeah. What is that? Number 6? Yeah, it have
Number
to be.
6, yeah.
Yeah, it have to be Work Goose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just curious.
Hey, Rick, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You you say it's just wood. What glue do you recommend people use?
Everybody thinks I use some sort of exotic. I use Elmer's.
I just asked.
Just plain old Elmer's.
Bubble gum. I think that'll work.
That's what I
That's a
like.
little bit too much MacGyver using the bubble gum. I don't know.
Well, it's not that the bug guns. It just gets really hard to spread it thin unless you spit on it a lot. Then the
That's what I
basswood.
like, just plain old wood glue or white glue.
Yeah, white glue, wood glue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
either one.
That's it. That's what I recommend.
I have something that I am told came from my grandfather,
Okay.
who was a carpenter.
Okay.
It is wood glue. It's not paste, it's wood glue, but it's a bigger thing with a brush in it.
Okay. Do you have to heat it to put it on?
Nope. If it ever starts to thicken up, you add a few drops of water, stir it good, and keep going.
Huh. I'll be damned.
It's
So it's
about
not hide glue. All right.
No, it's not hide glue. It's a water, like a PVA type glue.
Oh, well, how nice.
Who knows how old it is? I mean, my grandfather, if he was alive, would be over 100.
Oh,
I have my bedroom furniture, my wife and I sleep in, he made by hand without power tools.
uh-huh.
Still works just fine, in spite of the flood my mother's house went through. Well, she went on vacation and came home to find water pouring out the front door.
Oh, my.
The hose for the washing machine had burst.
Oh,
That'll do it.
yeah, that will.
That'll do it.
I'll fill it right up.
So
Rick,
anyway, yeah.
Rick, I hear you just bought a new company.
Oh, no, I didn't buy it. I bought part of an old company.
Well, what part did you buy?
Now, what part did I buy? Well, it was first off, it was Bethlehem Car Works, and that's John Green's outfit, and that's out in Telford, Pennsylvania. And he makes nice kits. He's a competitor as far as coaches and cars go, but he makes nice kits. And if I'll give anybody a plug, what he did, he sold his truck line to me in HO. So I now have, oh gosh, more than 50 different styles of trucks. Everything from passenger to freight to traction. And Caboose trucks as well. There's a lot of leaf spring trucks. Now these are all cast in soft metal. They're actually this linotype that he liked to use. The new formula pewter is a little more brittle, a little less forgiving. And he, as part of this, was an arbor press, some axles, and enough 33-inch wheels to choke an ox. If you will, if you can imagine a box 8 by 8 by 8 filled with HO wheels and nothing else. And they aren't plastic, they're all metal.
Jeez.
Is that the line that used to be Cape Line?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
A truck that was around for a while, I don't know how long, who had it. It is a wood beam freight car truck, kind of like an arch bar 3-axle truck.
It was a 3-axle or was it a 2?
Yes, it was a 3-axle.
Wood beam.
Yeah, it was like a 3-axle arch bar.
Okay, well, the only one I could think of is that N&W Pilsner truck, which is
No, it's not that
one. I don't know. I would have to look through what I have, it doesn't ring a bell. Because
I've only seen it once, and I could be mistaken. That's happened once or twice. Yeah. So anyway,
if you ever see it again,
I'll send you a picture.
Would you please? I'd like to see it.
And I thought there was at one time another bobber caboose frame, a longer one.
I have one. Matter of fact, I have two different frames that I got when I bought Huff and Puff, the old Huff and Puff.
Yeah, I want those S-scale parts.
Oh, well, that's not a problem. How many do you want? I can fire up the casting machine. You want the oversized fat people or what?
He did make those, didn't he?
Yes, they were rather corpulent.
They were like a good Dutchman.
Hey, watch that.
Well, if you've ever seen pictures of the Dutchman from the 1700s, they are not small people.
No, there. Well, except if you're talking about my grandmother who was born in Zaandam and was a little over 5 feet.
My wife doesn't even make 5 feet.
Oh, one of those.
Yes. Now, see, I see the 813, which is a bobber caboose.
Okay, yes.
But I thought there was a longer one without a toolbox. It was part of the line at one time.
There is, if I remember correctly, there is a longer frame that was that's a Huff and Puff part. It's not a Cape Line part.
Okay.
Yeah, you just drop me an email. I can spin some out for you.
We'll talk.
All right. It's not a problem.
Hey, Rick, I got a question that popped up on the YouTube chat.
Sure.
It's a guy looking, he's got a 10 of the O-scale passenger cars that you guys put out.
Yes.
And he needs trucks to go with them. So he's trying to figure out where can you get the trucks?
Okay. I found them singly from Walther's, and before Mike's Train House closes down, he's got some. Now, I don't know if MTH is shut down yet, but he had some on his website as well. Precision Scale Company has some, but boy, they're proud of those trucks.
They have plastic versions that are good too.
Yeah, I've got a couple of plastic versions. They're good for a while until the springs force the glue joints apart. I had some problems with those.
Okay. What about Wiseman? Does he have anything?
I don't know. I don't know if Brian's got any or not.
Dylan, this is an O-scaler?
Yeah.
It's an O-scaler.
Yeah.
And these are for freight cars?
No, passenger cars, the Labelle passenger cars. He's got some. He was just asking about it on the chat. So
I try and keep up on those, but nobody's come up to me and said, "Hey, here's a mold of a bunch of O-scale side frames. Do you think you can make them?"
Worst case scenario, if you can't find them, if somebody could get me drawings, I could probably make the side frames.
Okay.
I was just working on some stuff for
and
Dylan,
if you could make up the side frames, I could make up a mold.
Why not? If we could figure out what is really needed, yeah. I mean, as long as I can find drawings to work from, because I don't want to guess.
I'm presuming these are not modern.
Oh, I'm not going to pretend that they're modern, but
okay.
Like every passenger car I've ever looked at, whether it's a heavyweight, whether it's wood, there's always something different about the trucks.
Right.
So it's a question of era, and then it's a question of Yeah, that's basically it. It's a question of era and then a question of drawings.
Okay, now, Dylan, I'm looking at these trucks that I've got right here.
I can
See 'em?
vaguely make them out, but I think I know. I think I know the trucks you're talking about.
Okay, I don't know who made them, but they're a 3-piece truck, and it would really be nothing to make a pattern or use these as a pattern and make a mold out of them.
It's just a question of you don't know who made them, so you don't want to just take somebody's work.
I don't want to pirate somebody else's work.
Yeah.
How about Scale City?
Scale City. Now,
Yeah, that's
is
the old.
he the guy who bought Jim Keel's line?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think those are the old Walters trucks, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Okay, I found Wiseman in his passenger car section has the Carter Brothers truck, a slightly more modern truck, and a couple of other stuff that he calls 0 and 330 Denver Emery or Grand trucks, which are going to be shorter. That's what I see. There's also the Bachmann trucks. Bachmann makes a truck that's used on their 0 and 30 cars. Which
Yeah, but those are scaled for the 0 and 30 cars. That's the problem.
I understand
Well,
that after you make them into 0 and 3.
Yeah, you could make them 0 and 3 easily enough.
Well, but 0 and 3, you're pretty well covered with San Juan, which is the old Grant Line trucks.
Right. Problem is, if you're doing the standard gauge ones, that's where you're running the trouble.
That's right.
Yeah, I was just thinking about somebody else. Well, that's all 0 and 3.
Now,
Good Hill model.
at one time, San Juan had, when it was San Juan, when John Parker had it, he had standard gauge O-scale trucks. They were not passenger, they were freight, but they were very good, very nice. And the interim owners, right after John Parker and before they got sold to the people in Denver now, dropped those trucks because they couldn't figure out how to shoot the bolsters on them and have them come out. So I don't know. I'm just, like I say, I would love to be able to have a line of trucks to say, okay, guys, here you go. When I first started here, I would buy, I don't know, 20, 30 pair of the old Athearn O-scale trucks at a time. The freight trucks, the arch bars and the Bettendorfs and, the usual suspects, until they got sold to, God, who has them now? Horizon Distributors. And when I went to ask to buy just trucks, the lady on the phone told me, she said, well, we can't sell you that unless you sign a contract with us that you will put our trucks in every one of your kits.
The problem is you can't put those trucks in every kit because it may not look right.
That's what I told her. And you know what her reply was?
Something along the lines of "too bad, so sad."
No, well, very close to that. She said, we don't care.
Yeah, here's another thing, though, that is information if you don't know. The lady who originally was running the parts department for Horizon Hubbies,
Yeah.
she ticked off enough of their customers that they asked her to seek employment elsewhere.
Well, that's a very good thing.
So you might want to try them again.
Okay, well, I will.
But I don't know who else has standard gauge.
Standard gauge passengers, like I say, if I could find some good basic trucks that nobody had a copyright on, or the copyright is expired, or nobody's making, I would be happy to have some. I'm sure I could find wheel sets from somebody.
So
Wheel
we'll-
sets are easier than the trucks for.
Yeah, especially the side frames on these trucks. I mean, I've got a real nice plastic 3-axle Pullman truck that was actually done from a plastics company out of Des Moines, and they went out of business. And nobody's picked up their truck line, and it's been well over the 7+ years or whatever it is for patent. So I don't know. I keep looking at it thinking, well, maybe I ought to.
How
But I
much
don't
of
want
the old
some-
Walther stuff is available?
What's that?
How much of the old Walther stuff is available?
That's
Good
what
question.
Scale City has.
What's that, Bud?
That's what Scale City has.
Yeah, you can get the older Walther stuff, like the trucks, relatively easily. When I went looking for some, because when I was in Maine a couple years ago, I picked up a bunch of the old Walthers Sierra Railroad shorty coaches.
Ah,
Now, I never built them because I'm like, okay, I don't even have the tools to curve the roof. Okay, I'll just put these away and then I'll use them for something eventually.
Dylan.
Well, I
Dylan.
know, I'm horrible. I know. I cheat because I design everything on the computer and have it perfect. And I know, I'm weird.
See the end of that roof? That was done by hand.
Oh, I know, but the problem is I didn't even have the hand tools to do it. So I'm like, crud.
What handles? You need can you get a piece of sandpaper?
I don't know if sandpaper would cut it with this wood.
Yes.
But
Well, with basswood.
I don't know if it's basswood. It feels too hard to be basswood, to be honest.
Could be
with you.
yellow pine.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, what I'll say is if somebody could get me now it's just a matter of finding time, but if we can find scale drawings of these side frames, designing a side frame is not difficult. The biggest
Scale drawings are available for almost everything.
right, it's just a matter of finding them in an avenue that I can put them on my computer. So usually what I've been doing lately is I was working with a guy, I was working with Larry Knapp on a project of his, and they've been trying to figure out on this. It's a War Department locomotive that the British used in World War I. I'll save you the details. The point, not even a simplex. It was I can't even remember who built it off the top of my head, but it looks like a rolling box. Is a giant rolling box, basically what it looks like. Dave, you probably know that. Yeah, Dave probably knows what I'm talking about. He can probably picture it in his head. But they had these poles on the side of them that were apparently for overhead wire. It was some sort of gas electric contraption thing. So they're like, oh, well, we'll put these poles here because then if we have overhead wire, we could just run it right off of overhead wire. Well, they never used it. They just put the poles there anyway. But Larry came to me and he's like, hey, I need some of these. And it took me a while to figure out how to get the drawings scaled right in my CAD program. But once I did that, it took me only a couple hours to crank them out.
Anything Pullman made or ACNF, any of their former divisions, is available online. Or
you just got to know where to find it.
Yeah, or the right libraries. So it's a matter of spent time hunting and pecking to find it. Most of the Pullman stuff is in books. I just don't know how scannable that is.
The biggest thing for me is I would have to throw it into my CAD program. So basically I could match up what I'm designing to the part and make sure that, okay, it lines up, it looks relatively correct. You know, if a rivet is off by a millimeter, who cares? It's so small, it's not a big deal. The other thing is once you look at it, you can figure out what you like. If you want to produce them as like a spin cast thing, It's now a question of what do you make your master out of so you can make multiple spin cast molds and it just doesn't fall apart.
Well, what you do with that, it's actually pretty simple. You make your mother cast, and I'm not swearing here, okay? You make what is known as a mother mold. You take your original side frames as cast, put them in this mold, and then you make the mold, all right? If they disintegrate, crumble, whatever, as long as the design transfers, you're cool. Then you take and you gate the mold, and you use this mold to make children. Okay?
Yeah, basically duplicates.
Right. And then you take the duplicates and then you use that for your production mold. So if, like I say, if the master is destroyed, and I can show you some destroyed masters, as long as the as long as it transfers, then you're fine. As long as you can make copies of it.
Yeah. We have a question here.
Oh, good.
Philip Steed asked, do you make an O standard gauge wood caboose for Rio Grande?
An O, I don't make an O narrow gauge, an HO standard gauge caboose for Rio Grande either. Does he have any particular one in mind? I've seen a number of designs. There was the design that was used when the Rio Grande was owned by the Missouri Pacific, and it and the MOP and the WP all had basically the same caboose. Or is he thinking of one of the later ones? Yeah, all I need is I need a drawing and dimensions. It's what I need.
Yeah, I think Philip has left because he's grayed out.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we can. Somebody here knows his address.
He shows up on occasion, and I think he's one of the guys who, if he's not here, he goes back and watches it on YouTube. I think. Don't hold me to it, Jim. If I'm wrong, you'll hit me later. I don't know. That's basically what you would need for a truck drawing.
That is a truck drawing.
Yeah, that's all I would need.
Well,
it's got to get it onto a computer somehow so I can plug it into my program.
Almost everything then is in the train shed encyclopedias, or
this is
prototype.
Yeah, this
one
is
of the prototype.
Car Builder's Dictionary of 1905.
If you go back,
you know what? I think I have a friend who has a few copies of the Car Builder's Dictionary floating around.
Well, also, Dylan, I can get you all the ones online.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think every Car Builder's Dictionary is online, scans of it. Some of them aren't so good, considering what library they might have come out of. But
yeah, well, you know what? Anything's better than nothing, and anything is better than me looking at a picture. Like the very first truck I designed, I looked at a picture, and the sad part is the truck is missing half of its components, and I didn't realize that. I'm like, oh, I'll scale it off of a truck that I know. Yeah, no, way off. Way off.
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
And it looks so weird. It's like, well, it's only got this top beam, and yeah, well, the bottom support beam is, it was a wood frame truck, so it rotted away, and it's just been parked in a corner. The car has been parked at the Sandy River for years. So they're just like, well, it hasn't fallen over, and the main structural parts of the truck are fine. Who cares? Which, to be fair, where it's just there for storage, yeah, it makes perfect sense. But, I didn't realize that until after I, sketched it up and printed off some prototypes that, yeah, this doesn't look right.
Anyway, Jim, I think he's still here. Clark, are you around?
But wait a minute, before we go to Clark, I've got another question for Rick.
Yeah.
Rick, do you see Larry periodically?
Larry.
Yeah, Burke?
Larry, I don't
Larry
think he
who?
knows Larry Burke.
No, I don't.
Ah, okay. I thought you said that he was gonna give you his layout.
No,
Oh,
Harry
oh.
Brunk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
I'm
sorry.
like, Larry Burke, that's another guy I know.
I know. I'm
This
sorry.
guy.
Yeah, I know who you mean. Are you still talking with him?
Oh, sure. Sure.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
I used to read his Up the Clear Creek all the time. In fact,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I used to subscribe to the Gazette. What
Well,
do you
there's a
think?
lot of people's reason to subscribe to the Gazette.
What do you think the chances are, maybe, that you could see if he'd be interested on being one of our shows? Because I would love for him to talk about his reminiscences.
Well, I wouldn't have any problems with it. The problem is like I say, right now, he and his wife are in an assisted living facility. It's not that far from the shop. It's just around the corner. But they're in lockdown.
Do they have internet?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. I call him.
Does he have a cell phone?
He does have a cell phone, yes.
Well, Dylan, can he get on Zoom with a cell phone?
If he's got a phone that could do it, yeah, in theory. It's just a question of what sort of phone he has. I don't want to wager a guess that he's got like an iPhone in his pocket.
Oh,
No.
Wi-Fi service they have out there too.
And I don't know what the Wi-Fi setup's like over there. So
Well, this wouldn't be Wi-Fi. This would be on the cell phone system.
I understand.
My son calls me on Zoom each week from his cell phone, which is no problem whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you mind asking him, maybe seeing if he would be interested in
yeah.
doing that? Because if he could hook up, if we can figure a way for him to hook up with his cell phone,
Yeah.
I think that would just be fantastic to be able to talk to him about his remembrances and him building that layout, because I can remember him talking about the trailer. I can remember when the thing went to the museum. That's part of my life, or part of my modeling life.
Yeah, mine too.
Rick,
No.
interjecting as technical. If he's willing to talk to us, have him contact me. Do you have my? Well, yeah, you do have my, because I sent you an email.
Well, I
Have him contact me.
okay.
Let me send you my phone number, and we can talk him through getting the app on his phone, and then talk to Jim and whatever and get it all done.
Okay.
I sure would appreciate that, Rick, if you could do that, because I think he would
not
be.
a problem.
I think he'd be fantastic to talk, and he might really enjoy it. It'd be something different for him, and a way for him to link back in.
Yeah.
Now, I did have another question pop up in the chat on YouTube. Thanks for the info on the glue. But Rick, what do you recommend for paint, and especially when it comes to something like water-based paint and the possibility of warping the wood?
Oh, yeah, that's a very good question. The thing that personally, my favorite was always scale coat. Not scale coat 2, the old scale coat, the enamel.
Yeah, they still make it.
Right. Now, as part of the purchase of one of these companies, I could make somebody one hell of a deal on 2 gallons of Floquil Pullman Green. And I'm talking 2 gallons.
Oh boy, that's a lot of Pullman Green.
Right. It's, yeah.
That the old lacquer?
Along with the reefer yellow and the boxcar red.
I'll tell you who wants that right now.
Oh,
I can sell that for you in a heartbeat.
the problem is
you'd have to physically go pick it up because the postal service ain't going to ship it.
No, they aren't.
Is this the old lacquer or the new stuff?
Oh, it's the old lacquer.
Oh, gosh.
I get rid of that.
Yeah,
for
you've got that. So you think of the same person I'm thinking of, Jim?
No, probably
Had
not.
hundreds of bottles of it?
Yeah, it's the same person, and he'd make arrangements to pick it up. His
Oh,
name is
good.
Kevin McCumber.
Oh,
Okay.
he would. Oh, you. So you and I heard
Oh,
the same
yeah.
boat, Jim.
Oh, absolutely. He would do that in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even have to say the same. I wouldn't have to say it twice.
No, you wouldn't get through talking before he said where and how much.
Well,
No,
And how do I get it here?
No. That wouldn't be his first question. No.
That would be his third question. It'd
Do
be
you
where,
have it?
how much, and how do I get it here?
No, his first question is, what's the address I send the check?
Yeah. Well,
Second,
I'll tell you what,
second-
Jim, I'll give you an inventory of what I've got.
Oh, you got it. I'll call him as soon as I get your inventory, because I'm telling you, if there's anybody on the planet that's interested in that, it's Kevin McCumber. He is the paint king as far as he's concerned.
Okay, good for him.
If he doesn't know where to get bottles, Jim, have him call me. I know where to get lots of bottles.
Oh, Kevin has plenty of bottles. He just had paint sent to him the other day, and somebody screwed up in packaging it, so half of it was destroyed.
Yeah.
So he was like, I know he was just fuming, and I'm like, oh boy. And I felt bad for him because it's like I could smell the box from like the other end of my driveway. I could smell the box, and I'm like, yeah. You know, he's had bottles break before, but nothing quite like this. So he was like, he was upset. But yeah,
I don't blame him.
Oh, I know, because paint is his paint,
Rick,
die-cast. Those are his big things at this point.
Rick, I'm serious. If you want to get rid of it, I can send you his email. You can send me the stuff. I'll send it to him. He'll be all over it.
Well, the problem is, Jim, is that yeah, I'm up for getting rid of it because like I said, when and this I said this earlier at that virtual show, when I get Silver Streak and the rest of them ginned up, they're going to be sent out undecorated because matching paint has always been one of the worst things for me buying a kit and putting it together.
Yeah.
Especially if you get an old Central Valley kit or something like that, and it says the matching paint is 410M.
Yeah.
Rick, I got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Well, one of the question one is what you were saying earlier about how the hobby is expensive. Well, the first one is we're using oil-based paint, correct? For your wood
For the kits, yes, I like using oil-based paint, or if I'm going to use an acrylic, okay, I would say first thing you do is get a sanding sealer and seal the wood, or use several coats of paint, but put them on very, very lightly. Let them dry, let them seal, and then put your finish coat on.
Right. My biggest trick is paint both sides.
Yeah, that'll work too.
When it comes to putting decals on Microsol or anything like that, would that affect the wood as well? Well, obviously,
No, that doesn't affect the wood at all.
We'll seal the wood after that. I mean, before you do decals, because you'll be painting it.
Well, you'll have the paint on before you decal it anyway.
Right.
Unless you do it like the prototype does.
Right. And
when I was working for UP, we had to letter a couple of cars. And what surprised me was you put the lettering on first, then you paint it.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
And what you would do, they would have a facing on it. You pull the facing off, and then you'd seal the edges all the way around the lettering.
Yep.
Wow. You were saying that the model railroad hobby is expensive. Actually been looking at your website, and your prices are very reasonable.
I try and keep them that way.
Right. I mean, for an HO scale passenger car. I mean, and okay, they're going something that's ready to roll. What, 75 to 100, 120, depending who you get it from. And with that kind of price, you're creating something on your own. You're learning new skills. That's
True.
invaluable. It's priceless because now you can put it on the shelf or lay and say, "Hey, I built that."
That's
More
right.
than oh, it came in the mail. Okay, it's on the layout. You know.
Well, and another thing that I like about kit building, and starting with a basic car kit, you can screw up the box car, you can throw it away. You can putter with it, you can fix it, it doesn't matter. But what it does, it gives the new modeler confidence that he can build his own rolling stock, or he can build that depot that he's been lusting after that nobody has a kit of. When he finally gets the skills enough to learn how to master cutting with a knife without breaking things in several thousand pieces.
Yeah.
It's in my opinion, building your equipment is one of the stepping stones to making a layout like the Franklin and South Manchester, or take a look at the pictures of John Allen's Old Gory and Defeated, or any of these amazing layouts that these guys did in the past.
But the funny part about it is, Rick, they talk about the guys did in the past. If they take one of your kits today out of the mailbox,
Yeah.
they're building what the old guys in the past
Yes,
used to.
they are.
That the old guys in the past, like me, I can remember building those kits in the 50s.
Yes.
I can remember the HO scale passenger cars that came out in 50 and 60. Oh, they were great. I can remember the Ambroid 1 of 5,000, and I can remember Labelle, and Silver Streak. I can remember all of those. We used to just lust after being able to find one of those complicated craftsman kits that we could build.
That's right.
They're talking about the old kits. I've got one that maybe nobody's seen. Let's see if I can get it up here.
Stromberg.
Stromberg. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
And here's the sides printed. Even the side trucks were printed.
Yeah. I love the trucks.
Yeah, that's the trucks are printed. But I've only got one of them kits and I've had it forever. One of these days I'm gonna put it together, but I don't know how far back them go.
Oh, they go quite a ways.
Yeah. 30s, 40s. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I built when I was a teenager, 30 something years ago. No, 40 something years ago. I don't want to think about it.
You don't have to tell. Nobody here has to tell.
Yeah, I built a Santa Fe business car from a Walters kit. I don't know what happened to that thing, but yeah, it was new enough that it had the stamped metal sides.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I built that thing. I don't know if I did a good job or not. I don't know if I want to know. But yeah, it was fun.
well, I've got some of the old OK Streamline cars. They were the extruded aluminum ones.
Yep.
And they actually still make them, I think.
They were first class, if I remember right. I mean, I
Right.
never had, but I often wanted those, but I never got one.
Yeah, I think they still make them today, the OK Engine Company.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering, you guys were talking about Walthers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you're dating yourself there.
Yeah, I know.
I collect the old issues because of all the drawings and all the scratch building measurements that they have for all the structures. And rolling stock locomotive. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, with my business, I have some folks who bring in a Atherton Blue Box. And so.
Joe, something's wrong with your recorder, Joe. I can't hardly understand
Really?
you.
Still,
Yeah, you're breaking up, Joey. Anyway, Clark is with us, sitting here patiently waiting.
Oh, I'll shut up then.
Actually, I have
Wait.
one question.
Yeah.
Do you have any stuff that's like 18th century? Or I should
Don't
say,
you mean 19th century?
Well,
19th
18th century, that would be interesting. Do you want it, what if it was used in the Revolution or,
yeah, I was thinking more of something that would be used sort of like in New England during the Civil War. Because most of the stuff is like, oh, it's during what, the location of wherever the war was.
oh, yes, I know.
Not necessarily something that was sort of more supportive, like.
Are you thinking of a car with a flat topped roof like the old Tyco Civil War sets, or are you thinking of something with a clear story roof?
No. But when did the clear story become a thing?
Oh man, that was really early on. That was Pullman era. I know that.
you have a 1903 diner and sleeping car here. But that's
Look for HO 11, 12, 13, and 14. Open platform, 50-foot cars, 58-foot overall.
okay, HO. What numbers was that again?
11, 12, 13, and 14.
Yep, 1883. Your 1883 open platform coach.
Right.
39.59.
It would not be hard to backdate those either.
Would it be sort of like what this is?
Oh, okay. Well, first, I don't have little printed plastic people in the windows, but what I can do, since we can take one of those 1889 or whatever the heck they are, the 10, 11s and 12, the 11 through 14s, and just put a caboose roof on them. Just a gently curved caboose roof, and you're there. Because the sides didn't change that much over the years.
And I'm sure you can kit bash wood kits.
It's a wood kit. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah.
Well, you
Sandpaper. There you go.
Hardware store to buy little extra pieces to add whatever needed for whatever the model needed for that time. The prototype.
a little work, you could turn the double door baggage into an RPO.
I'm already working on one that is a DNRGW prototype that's well, let me see if I can find her here.
Do you have any flat cars? HO flat cars?
Yeah, HO50.
All right. Okay.
2-in-1.
Yeah. Yeah, you get 2 kits for 1.
Yeah.
Any chance you're ever going to do the church car in O scale?
You mean the chapel car? I'm not going to do the same one that I have in HO. I'm probably going to make a more accurate kit of the Evangel, which was a little shorter car. I'm trying to keep the O scale kits, yeah, let's put it this way, as small as I can, because if I go with a prototype 80-footer and we get a new O scaler in there, he's going to be knocking telephone poles down and people and pulling up trees. So I try and keep them as short as I can. The Evangel was a 60-foot car. And it, matter of fact, half of it still exists. So.
Now, speaking of small cars and all that, what about the freight cars?
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. Once again, wood. You want a small car?
Chop it in half.
Here, this car, the one I showed you, and put the end blocks on. That's a scale 34 feet long. You want 28 feet? Chop
Oh,
4 scale feet off of it.
TC,
Yeah,
TC, would you open the waiting room for Kevin?
I just let him in.
Kevin?
I didn't see it.
He's just
Kevin?
logging in now.
He's
Okay.
logging in. Give him a minute.
All right. Let me know when he's there.
I can see his smiling face already, but he needs to unmute himself.
Unmute yourself, Kevin.
Can you hear my lovely voice?
Kevin, Kevin,
Oh, boy.
Kevin, I want to introduce you to Rick Steele.
Hey, Kevin.
Hello, sir. We've spoken before.
We probably have.
Kevin,
You're with
Kevin,
Labelle, right?
Kevin,
with
he got gallons of flow quill he wants to sell, Kevin.
Yeah, if he's with Labelle, I've always admired his business. I think it's a fabulous, fabulous business, and I wish others would jump in and do what he's doing. And I don't say that as competition, but I'm concerned what the hell would the market do if he wasn't there? Make note of that, Dylan.
Yes, sir.
Well, no, you know what? God, have I been having some great calls this week. Utterly fantastic calls. And Jim and I talked earlier, but there's a lot going on. I'm sorry, I'm sort of fussing around. I'm trying to get in a room where my wife was, and my wife was talking to a family member. Just so everybody knows, my wife's mom died last week of COVID. And she died a half hour before Christmas dinner. Yeah. And it was, she had Alzheimer's, but she was so suffering. And she, you know, like me being the former jarhead, I'm like, okay, put a bullet in my head, you know, get me the hell out of here. And nobody wants to see their mother or a friend suffer like that. Absolutely. And every guy here, I think it's different for guys because we guide our wives or sisters, but that kind of suffering was awful. So anyhow, today was the funeral. So Ari's still dealing with that.
Our
So,
sympathies, man. That's not fun.
well, it didn't help that her aunt, who she was closer to than her mom, died 3 weeks earlier of COVID.
Ooh.
We had a guy on the O scale list. Him and his wife died from complications from COVID 3 days apart.
Well, listen, Kevin, we've got a full show here. I did want you to come on because I wanted to introduce you to Rick, because if you're serious about wanting his gallons of paint, he's got the gallons of flow quill that he wants to get rid of.
Are they literally gallons or are they in bottles?
No, gallons.
Hang on for a second, okay? Just hang on.
Oh, this is interesting.
If you need bottles,
He's like going back to, he's like a mad scientist going to his back room.
Kevin, when I mentioned your name, I told them that the first question you would ask is, where do I send the check? And the second question you would ask is, how much do I make it for?
That's right.
If you need bottles, if you don't have glass bottles, let me know.
I need glass bottles. There you go.
Okay, we'll talk.
Well, the problem is, you know how many ounces are in a gallon, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm aware of what we're talking about.
That's a lot of bottles.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Silvernail, I see your charming face there.
Yes, I'm here.
And Mr. Richard. Oh my God, look at that toy. I absolutely need to do another road trip to California.
Now, Kevin, you have my mailing address, so you know where to send the check.
Back. Now, some of these have been opened and used, but gallons of flow quill paint.
What?
I think you just made his day.
You're like my best new friend.
Called it. I called it.
Thank you.
This
We'll
right here
talk
that I'm holding
offline.
is actually the Floquil Dark Blue, but I've got just gallons of this stuff.
Where do you live again?
Cheyenne, Wyoming.
What?
What do you mean,
Nobody
what?
lives in crap. Okay,
Hey,
we're
I
gonna
like
have
it
to.
here.
Interesting.
Just couple-
Oh, by the way,
and sneak across the borders.
All right,
By the
all
way,
right.
while we're talking-
Kevin,
Yes,
Kevin,
sir.
I hope that you're happy. You've
Thank
got
you.
a source for bottles and a source for gallons of paint. Rick, I hope you do a great deal with Kevin on getting rid of the paint. But we've got Clark Cooney, and I've got to get Clark in on his modeling with Clark guys. So unless somebody has a really important question,
I do.
I'd like to introduce Clark
Can I tell a funny story, Jim?
if we have to.
Dylan, I want you to know that you are far down the list of breaking into railroad museums, because David Silvernail there got to experience me breaking into the Nevada County Narrow Gauge Museum late in the evening. Isn't that right, David?
Oh,
Right at closing time.
Okay.
I had to share that. It's a great story, but we'll do it later.
All right. So, Clark, I want to welcome you and thank you so much for coming this evening. I understand you had some problems earlier. Glad you got those worked out up there where you are. And so now, Clark, we'll turn it over to you for your Modeling with Clark segment.
All right. Well, that was an interesting segment, you guys. I appreciated the information, especially about Labelle Works and about Harry Brunk stuff. So that's kind of interesting. And I knew Jim Vale fairly well, and a lot of the other narrow gaugers out in California. So that was kind of interesting. And I wish I would have known that layout was in Cheyenne. I drove through there when we went to go to the Salt Lake Convention. I would have stopped in. All right. Let's see. I got to do sharing, sir.
You should have it.
Okay.
Yep, it's on. So you're good to go, Clark.
All right. And let's see. So this is 15 minutes with Clark. Aren't you guys lucky? This is number 2 in our tips and tricks for new tracks. So we're gonna touch about electrical tips for model railroading, just some points of interest and so forth. Nothing too complicated. So let's talk electrical things. So this is a very quick look at some tips and tricks you might want to try to improve your model railroading. So let's go. First of all, I have recently been, LED to death and doing all kinds of things. And our friends at NCE have this little LED tester, and it works terrific. And it's just a real simple thing. If you get frustrated, you put an LED in and it doesn't seem to work at it, is it the LED or whatever, you can use these little testers, and it's just a little simple thing that really works well. And I've it saved me a lot of grief and a lot of times. So another thing is electrical tips and wire terminals. These little orange things, this is a Tam Valley frog juicer, but when you screw the wires into these connectors, a lot of times guys will tin them or whatever, but I like to use the wire terminals. One, they make it really neat. It reduces shorts, and it's easier than tinning with a soldering iron. What are they? Well, they're basically these ferrules, and they come in all kinds of different sizes, and you have a crimper. So a terminal is at the point at which a conductor from a component or device usually comes to an end, or a terminal may be simply the end of a wire, and or may be fitted with a connector or fastener. So there's another box of them, and here's just a wire and a little terminal. The terminals are generally sized to the wire, and sometimes you can use, small ones. NCE, for example, they have a very, very heavy wire going into their unit. And if you strip it away a little bit, you can use one of the thin ones, and then you can just insert it very easily into their connector. A ferrule crimping tool is really the best way to do it. I used to do it by just using a pair of pliers and so forth, and I'll show that in a second. But when you actually crimp it with one of these proper tools, you get a circular crimp, and it doesn't distort the shape of the wire and the ferrule. As I said, if you don't have a crimping tool, you can just use a pair of little needle nose pliers. You stick the wire through the terminal and just squeeze it. You can cut it off to length, and there you have it. But a crimping tool is really the right tool for the job, and it's always best to use the right tool to complete a task. You'll see it makes it a nice clean end, and it rounds it and keeps it nice to the shape, and crimps it onto the wire so it doesn't come off. And when you hook it up, it makes it nice and neat and professional job, and you don't have a lot of problems. So a short detector. Years and years ago, I think it was oh boy, and I forget the name. One of the guys who does quite a bit of blogs and so forth, and has fantastic information. He had this little short detector, and I built it just myself. It's basically a plastic box with an on and off switch, and I bought these connectors, and you basically can use two different ones. These ones are just probes, so you touch it to the track. If this beeps, you have a short. If it doesn't beep, you're good. So it's just like a continuity connector. And I built this simple homemade detector to check out the layout. And I always use it when I'm doing track work. And when I first just even put the bus on, and I haven't connected it to the power supply, and I'm connecting it to the track, if I do something wrong, if there's a problem with track work, it will immediately tell me. And it's the worst thing you can do is do the whole track work and the whole wiring and then turn it on and expect it to work, because it isn't. There's going to be a short or something somewhere. So if you do it as you go, you won't have those problems. And it's very simple. It's just a 9-volt battery with a little buzzer, an on and off switch. And then I have these two terminal posts with the test leads to attach to the track. And it basically, all as it is making a complete circuit, which would make the buzzer sound. So if the polarity is right, there will be no continuity, therefore the buzzer doesn't go off. And again, you can buy these little piezo buzzers, simple buzzer off of the nets. All you need is an on and off toggle switch, and these small banana terminal posts you can buy almost anywhere. Even used stuff is fine.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
When you usually in the past, I mean, my background is using an ohm meter, right? You get zero, and you're good. My question to you is, at least in the 0 and 30 world, they suggest if you're doing long runs to solder connections to every section of track. So if you're using like flex track, you're doing it about every 3 feet. What's the sequence of testing that? So,
well, I just put it on, I just connect that onto the end of the bus. And as I start to attach the feeders, it'll
got it. Okay, that's what I was looking for. That might not be a bad thing to leave on all the time, actually.
Yeah, I do when I'm wiring, and some guys have used LEDs. The problem is if you happen to be under the layout or not looking for it, you won't think of anything is wrong. But when you hear that buzz, you've done something wrong, and you don't have to go and look to see if you've done something wrong. I used to use an ohm meter as well, and I still do for sort of fine tuning stuff. But if I hear that buzz right away, I know from underneath the layout or wherever I'm working on, I know I've got a problem.
Thank you. I think that's pretty useful thing.
So as I said, you can buy these little project boxes. Guys who are 3D printers can make them up really easy. You just drill a hole. You just drill a hole, for the on off, and drill a little bit out here and put the battery and all the stuff in. I did drill a couple holes on the bottom so that and I glued the buzzer in there just so it would be a little louder and you could hear it. So here it is here, hooked up to my bus on one end. And I just turn it on, and then when I'm working on it, when I'm finished, I turn it off. But I know immediately if I've hooked something out wrong. T-tap connector.
Clark?
Yep.
Even better, if you can find it, is to get two buzzers that make it they're different sounds, different notes.
Yep.
And the ensuing sound is horrendous, and you cannot mistake it for anything else.
Yeah. Usually that's me. That's usually me grabbing the wrong side of the soldering iron.
It's sort of like listening to Dylan.
Yeah. So let me continue this, and we can get back to it though. T-tap connectors. I don't know if any of you use them or not, but they are fantastic. So what is a T-tap? Well, basically it's a male spade connector, and then you get a female T-tap, and basically it's got a little tooth in it here, and you fold it over the wire, and it's they are correct to the wire size, so you have to watch that. And then I just use a pair of pliers and snap it. You can actually buy the 3M lock pliers, but they're very expensive, and I don't think you need it for what you're going to do here. And then once you've got that around, all you have to do is plug in the T part of the spade into the T-tap, and you've made your connection. Now, one of the neat things about this is if you do get a short, you can unplug it, and you don't have to do any unsoldering. You don't have to do any wiring per se. You just plug it in or plug it out, unplug it. And you can look to see what you did wrong. And a lot of times it's, I put the black wire on the red wire type of thing, and you can switch them around.
This is actually brilliant. I can't believe I've never seen these, and I'm an electrical engineer. This is really brilliant because it stops at under bench work soldering.
Absolutely.
It totally eliminates that pain in the ass.
Yep. And it's really quick. They will snap in together. What's the failure rate? Some people say, well, I have to solder. I have built several layouts like this. I've used them on modules. I would say it's maybe a 0.5% failure where you don't get a good connection. But you can check that and, come back and fix that. But most of the time it's because when you insert the spade, it's maybe a little off skew and it doesn't go straight in. So when you reposition it and push it in properly, you have no problems. Here it is on a layout. You can obviously the red to the red wire and the black to the black, and you're ready to go. And you can put multiples on here for different sections of track, and you just keep. Now some guys will put one wire and kind of pigtail it off. I prefer to have them all separate because then I can pull them apart one by one to find if I have a short. The other thing is a little cable test. You can buy these off Amazon and all kinds of places when you're making your own DCC cables. That is the biggest failure when people make cables, is that they don't test them. And it's very simple. You plug in one of the plugs up to the top of the main testing unit, and then this one here, and I should have taken it off. This actual piece comes apart, and you plug it into the top or the bottom, depending on if you're using RJ11 or RJ45. And then you just turn this off, and you'll see it go 1, 2, 3, and over here you should see the corresponding LED light up. And if you don't, if it goes 1, 3, 4, 5, number 2 is either got a break in it, or you haven't squeezed the telephone jack onto the wire properly, and generally that's the case. And so you go back and fix it. But you can test in the module groups. The guys will run the length, and they'll test the module connections for all the face plates and make sure they're all good, so that there's no problems when there's a show on. And here it is, just connected in here. As I said, you can take these pieces off, and you can have one at one end and one at the other, and it's just, and these are very inexpensive. I think you can get two for like $18, and you can get them at Amazon. The other thing is the DCC Ramp Meter. This is made by the Ramp Meter guys. Tony's Train sells them. Walther sells them. This is the one with the case. There are several different models. This is almost a must if you're in DCC. Basically, you can hook this up. You can see the split here, and these two little pins, you just turn it up, touch it to each rail. It will tell you, one, if it's on DCC or if it's AC. It will also tell you your volts. Now, you can run it through this machine to get your amps as well. And if you're doing a home layout, a lot of people in DCC go, well, I got to have boosters. Well, most of the time you don't, depending on how much you need for the layout. If you've got 500 locomotives on, they all draw probably about 0.40. They're a little under 5. A 5 amp system, you're going to run out of power. But if you've got 10 locomotives, running, you're only at about 2.5. Now, when you have trains running and you're accelerating them, you will see they draw much more. Now, if you're running an old Athearn with a decoder in it, they take about 2 themselves. But you can see how much power you're using. And I really suggest you use these to figure out what amperage and how many boosters you are actually needing for your layout when you're doing DCC. And that's it.
Hey, Clark, this is Phil. Just a comment on the tester.
Yep.
We do the modular layouts. You got to be really careful when you set them up and you break up into power districts. The power districts can get out of phase.
Yes.
And everything looks fine. And I actually had one of the Bachmanns, the 2662s. It actually got at the point where the engine was on one side and the tender was on the other side, and they were out of phase, and it literally melted the wires between the engine and the tender. And so we actually test everything just to make sure everything's in phase. So it's really a good tool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen it actually melt the brushes in the motor to the commutator, and of course the motor starts spinning at that point.
So, but it is one of those handy tools. I have the 2 simple ones mounted in my fascia, and they do I have 2 districts, so they're telling me, what amperage and what power is on those 2 districts. And then I have that one which comes in the case that I have in my toolbox, and I can, if I'm going to another layout, I take it or
about 15 minutes.
So anyway, that's all I have, unless anybody else has any questions. Thanks, Bob.
Well, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it for tonight. And sorry that it was a little bit late, guys, but Clark had some problems, and Rick was already going by the time he got here. So I'm glad that we got him all straightened away. And Clark, thank you so much for tonight.
Oh yeah, no problem. I felt bad because I'm trying to figure out how to make the connect. It wouldn't connect to the internet. I don't know why. And we're on cable here. It's not like it's a dish or anything. But then all of a sudden, the whole house was good, so it was all great. So,
I got a question.
Apparently, as far as Clark's problem, apparently it was the internet backbone in his area, not in.
And I think it might have been all of Canada because I was down too.
Yeah.
So there was a problem that was pretty widespread, but it's over now.
It is. It is. Somebody had a question there. Paul, did you say you had a
Yeah, the connecters that you first talked about in that first the little connectors for the small wires, where do you find them?
The ferrules and that?
Yeah.
The terminals, you can get them on Amazon.
Okay.
I think DigiKey has them.
What do you call them? Just like terminal connectors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see here. I'll just make sure. I'm just looking on the box to see what it says. Wire terminal assortment was what it says on the box.
I just looked up terminal ferrule, and I got a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. And at first, a friend of mine years ago showed me that, and I went, geez, I'll just put the wire in. But the more I've used these, the more I say, you know what, I'm not doing that frayed wire bit. I just put them in there, and I bought the crimper. I think the whole set off Amazon, and this is in Canadian dollars, was there's another set as well that has the crimping tool, the good crimping tool.
Yep.
And
crimping tool.
Yeah, and I think it was I think that's what it is here, this black one.
Okay, right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so yours is 26. I think I paid 39 Canadian, so.
Anyway, I quit sharing. I just wanted to show people that's what he's talking about. It's an excellent idea. And you can put them on the end of the little number 36 wire that is on Loke Sound decoders. And it's bigger and goes in the thing on the testing board better.
Yeah, I use them now all the time.
It looks like a good solid connection.
Oh, yeah.
So there's one that Amazon prefers, and that generally that means you get kind of I put the link for that one up in the chat.
Yeah, and you also can probably also go through any automotive place like O'Reilly's.
As far as the T-taps go, I do know they make a 2-wire T-tap for smaller wires. The idea is like car electronics. I have a bunch of them sitting here somewhere. I don't know where they are. Either that or I left them at Tim's house. But there's a port in it for 2 wires, and they're both isolated. So you could, in theory, put them all in one. Instead of having one for each one, you could put them together in one housing. I don't know how good that is.
Are you talking a suitcase connector or
No, not a suitcase. It is actually a T-tap.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's weird. It was designed for like speakers in cars.
Okay, yeah.
But there are 2 taps for both 2-wire and 3-wire. And there's lever connectors. I keep hearing rumors of pass-through lever connectors so you don't have to do 15 connections, but I haven't seen one yet.
Well,
So I presume that's a rumor, it's not a verified product.
I don't like with the suitcase connectors. What I'll do is just put a pigtail out of that. And then when you bring multiple track wires down, you can then just use a small wire nut to bring all them wires together. And then you don't end up using a whole slew of suitcases.
Right.
And usually, you get a good connection. If you don't, then you just retwist the small wire nut, but that works relatively well.
There's a fella in Michigan called the Wire Barn. And I buy them in bulk from him at I think it's a package of 100 of each at a time. So
you're talking about the suitcase connectors?
No, the T-taps.
Oh,
And now I know NCE also sells them, but they're like in packages of 12 or something.
Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate everybody's time tonight. and it's getting a little late. So let me at least announce our next show, and then we can talk as much as you guys would like to stay and talk. Wednesday night, January the 6th, Jim Murphy is going to talk with us about lighting, sounds, and movements on your model railroad. And it's going to be fascinating, in my opinion. I've talked to him about it, and I was fascinated when he told me what he was doing. And then we've got two special segments, one by Philip Richards and the other one by Bob Farquhar, that I think you're really going to enjoy. So I hope to see you Wednesday. I hope you'll come back for our next show. And thank you so much for coming.